The second round of European fixtures is here. Taking a look at the first round. So I correctly predicted Man United to lose against Bayern and Man City to beat Red Star Belgrade. The other two results, a Newcastle draw with AC Milan. I also went for that. Arsenal was the only result that I didn't get correct. I predicted a draw. I thought PSV were a difficult opponent and maybe Arsenal would take a bit of time to get into it. But Arsenal wiped the floor with them. Brilliant win, 4-0. So that's the Champions League roundup. I got 3 results correct, 1 incorrect. The Europa League and the Europa Conference were a bit more shocking. I went for all 4 sides, Liverpool, West Ham, Brighton and Villa, to win. Liverpool and West Ham both got their wins. However, Brighton fell to AEK Athens and Villa lost to Legia Warsaw. 2 results I didn't see coming. I think the Villa one is definitely more surprising out of the 2, but that's just how it goes. Their first games back in European football. It was always going to be difficult. Hopefully the English teams can do better this time out. We can have more winners. There were 3 losers which I wasn't expecting, so can we try and make it undefeated throughout the next round? Let's have a look by getting into the predictions. We start with Man United against Galatasaray. This could be a tough fixture as Man United lost 4-3 against Bayern, but it wasn't really a 4-3. Bayern controlled the game and just kind of let it slip towards the end so that Man U looked a bit better, but Bayern Munich won that comfortably. And Man United's form hasn't been great in the league this year either. They are struggling. They keep losing as well, surprisingly, so they're not really looking like a great side. They don't really have an identity, and I'm a bit worried about United this season, to be honest. Galatasaray started very strongly in the league. They drew against Copenhagen in their last game, so they had a decent start to their Champions League campaign. It's a game they'd want to win, as Copenhagen on paper are the weakest side in the group, but if Galatasaray can pull off a big shock against Man United or Bayern, they will be in a good position. And to be honest, in this game, I don't fancy United to win it. I know that's a shock and they probably will go and win, but I'm actually going to go down the middle, 1-1. Moving on, we've got Lens against Arsenal. Now, RC Lens, they had a tough start to the league, no wins in 5, but they have won 2 on the bounce now, and they drew their opening game against Sevilla. This is a tough group. I think Arsenal are a bit above the rest, to be honest, quite far. But the other 3 all will be very competitive with each other. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes out on top in that battle. Arsenal, very, very good start to the season. Drew 2, won the rest. Got through in the Carabao Cup, undefeated in all competitions. And they won their opener 4-0 against PSV. I think Arsenal will win again, so I'm going to go for the Gunners to win 3-0. Leipzig v Man City could be an interesting one, as Leipzig, they've won the German Super Cup against Bayern, they drew their last game against Bayern Munich, they've only lost 1 game in all competitions this season and it was their opening league fixture, and they've got a very, very exciting squad. They always seem to kind of churn out great players, mainly from Red Bull Salzburg of Austria, but they are a really, really good and fun side to watch. They also managed to get a win in their opening game, 3-1 against the Young Boys of Switzerland. Now, Man City, brilliant at the start of the season, but they are starting to slip a bit as they got knocked out of the Carabao Cup 1-0 by Newcastle, and they lost their latest league game 2-1 to Wolves. So that's 2 losses in a row. Didn't see it coming, and Wolves is a bit of a shock. Newcastle in the cup, it'll be a tight game, but losing to Wolves was a massive shock. And maybe Man City are gonna struggle to live up to the heights of last season. I would like to give Leipzig a lot of plaudits. I think they will make this game competitive. I have to back Man City, but I wouldn't be surprised if this was a very tight game. So I'll go Man City to win 2-1. and definitely the most exciting tie out of these Champions League fixtures, Newcastle against PSG. This will be a great game, but it could be quite low scoring because Newcastle have been very good recently, winning 4 of their last 5 games, keeping clean sheets in all 5, knocking Man City out of the Carabao Cup, beating Sheffield United 8-0 away. There's just been so many good games for Newcastle recently, and carrying all that form into this game will be vital. They drew their opening game 0-0 with AC Milan, and it was a game where they were pretty poor, but they held on and defended very well. PSG have only won 3 of their 7 league games this season. Bit of a shock there. They did beat Dortmund in their first game of the Champions League campaign. I think this is going to be really tight. And I wouldn't be surprised if Newcastle, first home game back in the Champions League, the atmosphere just absolutely got behind them and they managed to beat PSG. But I am going to try and make it a bit more sensible. So I will go 1-1. Into the Europa League, and Freiburg take on West Ham. Now, Freiburg, they have had a decent start to the season. 3 wins, a draw and 2 losses, so not too bad. They did win their opening Europa League game 3-2 against Olympiacos, so it's going to be a tough challenge for the Hammers, who travel here with a pretty decent start to the season themselves. They've only lost 2 games this season against Man City and Liverpool, so you kind of expect them to lose them, but they've been very competitive, lots of wins, got through the Carabao Cup. It was only against Lincoln, but West Ham are fighting on all fronts. They won their opening Europa League game against Baka Topola, even though it was the easiest on paper game of the group, but they got that important win, and I can guarantee Baka Topola will probably take a point off somebody, so it's important to get those 3 points. In this one, I can see it being a very tight game, but I think West Ham have a very exciting, dynamic midfield. You know, Ward-Prowse, Alvarez, Soucek, and then going into attacking midfield, you've got Mohamed Kudus, you've got Lucas Paqueta, Benrahma, Bowen on the wings. There's a lot of good players in this midfield, so I've got a feeling West Ham will just edge it 2-1. A tough game here as Marseille host Brighton. Now, the French side have had a pretty poor start to the league, I'd say. 2 wins and 3 draws, and then 2 losses in a row against PSG and Monaco, however. So maybe it's been better than you'd think, but some of the draws in there, you'd really be expecting them to win those games. They drew their opening Europa League fixture 3-3 with Ajax. Brighton have lost 3 of their last 4 in all competitions. Quite surprised at that. They lost their opening game 3-2 against AEK Athens. I didn't expect that. And they lost their last game in the league 6-1 against Aston Villa. I expected it to be a tight game and I thought it would go either way. So Villa winning wasn't a massive surprise. But that scoreline, brilliant from Villa, but you've got to question Brighton. Why were they so poor defensively in that one? And I don't know how to call this one. I'd love to back Brighton because I'd love them to get through this group, but I've got a feeling it might be another tough game, and being away, they'll just want to get that first point on the board, so I'm going to go for a 2-2 draw. Liverpool take on Union SG in our last Europa League fixture. Now, Liverpool have had a very good start to the season. They were undefeated in all competitions before losing 2-1 to Tottenham at the weekend, and they were actually unbeaten in 19 Premier League games. A very brilliant run from them, but unfortunately at the weekend that came to an end. 2 red cards for Liverpool and a Luis Diaz goal being ruled out that shouldn't have been ruled out, and the VAR knew that. It was very strange. I haven't seen anything like it. I've seen some dodgy VAR calls of that scale, but not really to do with offsides. The referee had given it as not a goal, and then the VAR thought that the referee had given the goal, so he said, yeah, check cleared, that's fine. But it turns out the ref had said, no, it's not a goal, so there was just massive miscommunication, which meant the goal was ruled out as the normal referee said, but for some reason they didn't change it a couple of seconds later. I don't know if there's a rule that says they can't go back, but when they've clearly messed up, they should go back when a couple of seconds have passed. So I did feel for Liverpool. I'm not the biggest Liverpool fan in the world. They're just one of those sides that I've never really enjoyed, but you've got to feel for them because they held on so well with 9 men, deserved to get something out of it for their defensive display, and lost it in the last minute to an own goal, and that goal should have stood. So it was very unfortunate for them, but I'm sure they can bounce back from it against Union SG, who have had a decent start to the season. They lost and drew their opening 2 games, but 3 wins on the spin, a draw in their opening Europa League fixture. Liverpool won their opening game, and I think Liverpool will get the win again, so I'm going to go 2-1 to Liverpool. And finally, dipping in to the St Johnstone's Paint Trophy. Oh no, wait, sorry. The Europa Conference League. We've got Aston Villa taking on Zorinsky Mostar. Right, okay. I don't know much about them. I haven't heard of them. Villa have started the season very, very well. They have had a couple of losses, but losses you'd expect against Newcastle and Liverpool. But good wins in there. And their last game, 6-1 against Brighton. A massive win. Brilliant for them. They did get knocked out of the Carabao Cup by Everton. And they lost their opener against Legia Warsaw. A result I didn't see coming, as I expected Villa to have a very good campaign. And one group game doesn't mean they're not going to. But I was shocked that they didn't really hit the ground running and get a big win on their opening day for the Conference League, but I'm sure they'll get it here because Zorinsky Mostar, as I said, I'm not too sure of them, never heard of them. It might even be their first ever European fixtures. I'm not too sure, but they did get a massive win against AZ Alkmaar on the opening day. Alkmaar were 3-0 up. Zorinsky Mostar pulled it back and won 4-3. So, brilliant from them. And all goals were in the second half for Zorinsky. It was 3-0 to AZ Alkmaar at half time. So, big shock there. Can they do it again? Now, Zorinsky are actually 16-1 with the bookies to get a win here. So, it might be worth backing if Emery's first European game with Villa is anything to go by. But all jokes aside, I'm sure Villa are going to smash it. So I am actually going to go for Villa to win 5-0. So that is it. Those are the European fixtures for all the English sides. My predictions. What do you think of them down below? Let me know in the comments what your predictions are. Make sure to like and subscribe. And hopefully all of the English sides can do us proud.